Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of The Null Frequency Impulsar by James Nelson Coleman. This is a book that came out in 1969 from Berkeley Medallion. It is a classic sci-fi. So this is one of my classic sci-fi book reviews where I do a mini review of the book itself and then I go into my classic sci-fi bingo, which I use as a jumping off point to talk about stuff in the book that I found interesting. And yes, also interesting is my shirt. It says, "What excellent boiled potatoes." It is from the Pride and Prejudice Keira Knightley version. Yeah, I got it as a birthday gift and I absolutely love it. So back to this book. So, the mini review. Despite its interesting concept and a main character we rarely see in the time period, the book suffers a bit in terms of the writing itself, unfortunately. What is this book about? Challenge. 50 years after man reached Venus and Mars and colonization of both planets began, free enterprise in space was suddenly strangled by the emergence of 5 giant companies. Employing the most ruthless practices, intimidation and bribery and political blackmail, they gradually gained a monopoly in the field of commercial space travel. Crushing everyone in their way with their Gestapo-like tactics, the 5 companies went unthreatened until they outdid even themselves with their cold-bloodedness. Their cloak-and-dagger murder of a noted space researcher sparked an unprecedented challenge by a youthful group of scientists, headed up by brilliant, beautiful, and determined Catherine Rogers, and superbly aided by an alien sphere of luminescence. This has nothing to do with the book. Like, honestly, I thought it was going to be like a political intrigue novel or maybe almost like kind of like a thriller in that regard. No, that backstory you just heard is literally the backstory you get in like the first 2 pages. After that, you never hear anything else about the 5 companies. I was like, okay. I will admit, I loved a few things about this book. There's a woman main character who is not only a woman in STEM, but also a space captain. I was like, it's rare enough to get one of those things, but all 3? I was like, whoa. There's also normalized equality, and there's alien possession, like possessing a human being's mind. Unfortunately, the writing in this novel is a bit, well, it's bad. The words suddenly and instantly pop up so much I started rolling my eyes whenever I saw them, and the overuse of exclamation points and multiple sentences in caps were downright offensive to me. Let me see if I can find one of the caps ones. There's a lot here. I mean, here's one. I don't want to read this in caps. I don't want to read it. To be honest, I didn't. I skimmed it. Yeah. Yet, if you can look over this stuff, the story is quite fun, aside from one really serious part. The back cover, as I said, is honestly the first 2 pages of the novel. The book itself deals more with Catherine and a light orb alien being named Tiza, I don't know, teaming up to take down another light orb alien, Trabzon, who is determined to feast off the life force of humans and also reproduce with Tiza against her will. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of an ick factor in that Tiza claims to be not fully grown, aka a teenager, so trigger warning for sexualized violence against a minor in this book. Of course, they are light orbs, so you don't get like a graphic scene or anything, but the emotional impact it has on Tiza is quite serious. The alien possession in the novel has a sort of venom aspect, which was fun, in that the humans can talk to the alien inside their heads, but they can also straight up possess someone, like unaware, and control their body. The title of the book refers to something that neutralizes their control, if you were curious about what the heck the title is supposed to be. In truth, the book attempts to be serious, given the aspect I mentioned before. There is also quite a high body count regarding humans, and the manner they die is similar to that of The Ring. So yeah. While the concept of the book is interesting and attempts to be, as I said, serious, the book drags at the end quite a bit, and Catherine, while wholly in charge of the plot and who basically kind of, moves the story along, spends a lot of time running from place to place trying to outpace Trabzon. Catherine herself is likable, albeit not very deep, and she is smart, capable, strong-willed, and good-natured. She's a fun character to watch because she's also, very plucky. She sacrifices a lot to help Tiza and humanity, and I liked her colleagues and I liked Tiza as well. Trabzon as a villain was kind of one-dimensional. He's also a light orb, but his goals were kind of. Overall, I enjoyed this book quite a bit, though it needed an editor and some trimming. So yeah, I'm going to jump into my classic sci-fi bingo. Let's get into it. Outdated science. Yes. They talk about a police switchboard at some point, which I'm assuming is like the actual little switchboard thing, and definitely outdated there. Spaceship crashes. Yes, one of the characters, Jerry, actually dies trying to escape in a spaceship that ends up exploding and crashing and stuff like that. Social changes. Yes, first of all, there are women in the military. For 1969, that was not a common thing. And let's see, there's something here. This I found interesting. Rich farmland skirted both sides of the road, yet little of it was under cultivation. For the first time in history, there was food in enough abundance to feed the world's population. The world's vast deserts were fully irrigated and under cultivation, and because of the worldwide use of advanced agricultural techniques, Earthmen were able to keep a good 3/5 of the world's farmland under soil bank conservation, supporting only rich green carpets of grass to prevent soil erosion. Under these circumstances, it was not at all unusual for many farms in the area to be abandoned. Yeah, that was interesting. That's definitely not happening today. It's definitely a social change regarding world hunger and, I guess, sustainability. Sexy female scientist. So Catherine and the women are all described as pretty or beautiful, quite often, actually. It's almost like they had to say that. But they aren't hypersexualized, so I would say no, there's no sexy female scientist. Cool aliens. Yes, mind-possessing light orb aliens are always cool. Alien-human romance and generation ship, there are none of those. Space soldiers. Yes, there are police patrolmen, as they're called, and Catherine herself is a space captain. AI or robots. There are servo mechanisms, which are... It says that they can perform any job that can be done by a human being. There's a master brain with control console somewhere in the cavern. The cavern also contains a formula for an alloy that has 1,000 times the tensile strength of the strongest steel yet developed by Earthmen. And then the booklet describes it as a combination of metal and plastic, plastimetal, and says that it can be produced very cheaply. So she's basically talking about it. But basically these are like robots that can build a psychic teleportation machine, as well as in 10 days, or was it 3 days, they could build an entire space platform, like an orbital platform. I was like, wow, okay. Let's see, New Worlds and Cyberpunk, we don't have any of that. Sexism, absolutely not. Aside from the androcentrism you heard, like mankind, earthmen, etc., etc., this book has several women in STEM. Catherine is, quite frankly, awesome. The main alien, Tiza, she's a woman as well. And no one also expects less of Catherine because she's a woman. She doesn't have to prove herself. It's absolutely great. I was like, wow, this is shocking to me. I thought that was fantastic. Forerunner technology and LGBTQ+. Nope, we don't have any of that. Portals, yep, they use a portal to get from the underground farm facility that you heard about to their headquarters and back a couple times. There's no microfiche. There's no male MC being a dick because the main character is a woman. And she's also not a dick. Racial equality, yes, some of the staff members are people of color, and they're not treated any differently for being such. Future weapons, yes, this book is jam-packed with these, along with the Null Frequency Impulsar themselves, which is a helmet that you wear, which a woman invented, to block the Triskelions, which is the name of the light orb aliens, from getting into their heads. So basically it's a dumb helmet you put on, and then they can't get into your brain, which is, a very common sci-fi trope in this time period. Just put on a helmet, that'll save everything. Post-apocalyptic, bounty hunters, galactic war. Nope, we don't have any of that. I don't think Trabzon's plan counts as galactic war because it's one person or one being doing it as opposed to like two societies at war. He's basically just a serial killer. Tech today, they have vid phones, which are basically just like video calling and like Zoom. At one point, Catherine calls and she sees a room full of people on the screen. I'm like, oh, it's Zoom for you. The Bechdel test, yes, this book passes the Bechdel test in the first 5 pages, so that's fantastic to me. Quick pick bonus, we do have a female main character, but we don't have any reptile aliens, and we don't have any convergent evolution. There are a couple funny things in the novel. I mean, it kind of sucks actually when I get a book that I enjoy because it's not as fun as like kind of making fun of it like I did the last one through the reality warp. But there's a couple funny things in this novel. The first one is... Okay. In response, Catherine touched Steve's arm and motioned. A moment later, the door opened and Inspector Beckett strode into the office, where he had just opened his mouth when Steve's fist smashed into the side of his jaw and his body went sailing across the office like a limp rag doll. It careened off a table and it hit the wall and slid limply to the floor. I don't think a regular man that's not a superhero could punch a man in the face and literally send him flying across the room. I just pictured it. I was like, what? I'm like, okay. That's a bit over the top. And then we have another part about fighting that was also funny. The secret police were handicapped. They had never been required to fight young girls before, and they were not prepared for it. Inspector Beckett immediately realized that the only way he could save his men from receiving an assortment of small, painful injuries at the hands of Valerie and Linda was to call a halt to the breaking of Eleanor's leg, and at once he ordered her released. So basically, this woman, they have her, and they're like, tell us the information or we're going to break your leg. And then these two little girls, like one's like 9 and the other's like 11 or something, they bring them in and they start like fighting the cops, and the cops are just like, I don't want to fight these children. It was just like a funny image. Yeah, there's nothing else that's kind of really entertaining in this book. I mean, it's good. It's just the writing is a bit rough. And yeah, that kind of whole part about the sexualized violence wasn't super cool. But as I said, it's kind of off the page. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm more satisfied with this book than I am with some of the others I've read this year. So check out the Null Frequency Impulsar if you are looking for something that's not bad. Thank you.